Hi, I'm Cailey, a librarian here at Mentor Public Library.
And I'm Meg, also a librarian, and welcome to this week's edition of All Booked Up with Cailey and Meg, where each week we give you a different book recommendation related to a specific theme. Our special edition this week is Secret Santa. So we know we recommend books to you each week, but we thought in light of the season, we'd see if we could test how well we know each other's taste and recommend books to each other, books that we think we would like. So I'm Cailey, I'm going to surprise you and see if we can.
Yes, and I think that after doing more than 25 of these this year, we are a little bit familiar with what the other person is interested in. So hopefully we have some fun picks for each other today. And as usual, all the books that we mentioned today, if you're interested in them, are available through the library and online through Hoopla and Libby by Overdrive for free with your library card. All right, Meg, what's your first pick for me?
Okay, Cailey. So I don't know if we've talked about this on camera before, but I do remember you telling me that you like poetry. Specifically, was it Rupi Kaur that you like?
Yes, I did. I read
Yes.
some of that when we were home in March, April.
Yes, exactly. So my recommendation for you, my little gift to you, I don't know, you might have read of this before, but it's The Dark Between Stars by Atticus. And Atticus is, I think he's around 20 now, but he got his start on Instagram, like posting little poems on Instagram that became viral and like really, popular. And this is a collection he came out with a couple years ago, and it's about the inextricable link between our highest highs and our lowest lows, and the beauty in our good moments and bad moments. So he writes really pretty, and I like poetry too. I don't know if we've talked about it here, but so he'll write about first love, breakups and things like that, but also just about how sadness and happiness, almost like Inside Out, where they have this connection. I thought that was really sweet. And especially for a year like this year, poetry, I think, has a way of connecting to your soul in this immediate way that maybe a long, drawn out book can't. And I like the immediacy of that. So I think that's something like at the holidays, you could just pick that up, just relax, read a poem or two, get your mind clear. So I just thought that was something I could give to you, just to find some rest this season.
I have not heard of that one, and you definitely surprised me with poetry there. So I think that's an awesome suggestion, though, because it's true. I did go like read through some poetry while I was at home, and I do find every once in a while something that just so well describes some feeling that I'm having or experience. And it's nice to pick up a new collection. So thank you for that one. So my first one for you is a new book. This is called This Was Hollywood, Forgotten Stars and Stories by Carla Valderrama. And it's a Turner Classic Movies book. So I know that we both love classic movies, and we have definitely mentioned that on here before. And this title just came out last month, so this caught my attention as something that you probably had not read yet.
Nope, I haven't.
And so first off, this book is not about those big names that you and I know and love,
Yeah.
but they are often mentioned in here. So this book goes deeper into some of these forgotten stories of old Hollywood, some that you may have heard of, some of these stars. Some of them might seem familiar, but there's definitely some that were brand new to me.
Okay.
So one of the stars mentioned in here is Vera Ellen, who you might know that name,
Yes.
or at the very least recognize her face. And
Yes.
some people would just only know her from a movie that is quite timely this time of year, White Christmas,
Yes.
where she played the Haynes sister Judy,
Yes.
opposite Rosemary Clooney and Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye. But this book kind of goes into her quick rise to fame in Hollywood and what happened after that, because that's really the only sort of starring role she had.
Yeah.
And one reason that I'll recommend this is that there is a whole section on Hollywood pets.
That's so cute.
And it's right up your alley for that. So there's some animals co-stars from old Hollywood, including a famous cat named Puzzums. and a dog that some may have heard of by the name of Rin Tin Tin, who is credited with saving one of the famous studios of the day. So this book has a really unique style. It kind of mimics the old magazines from early Hollywood days. And there's lots of photos, there's clips from newspapers and magazines and film sets, and the author shares these Hollywood tales of like stardom and tragedy and intrigue, and I just think you'll love it, Meg.
Thank you so much, Cailey. I love that. Anything that digs deep into Hollywood, I'm going to love. And that sounds just like me. So love Vera Ellen too. So that was a great one too.
Yes, but that's the thing. Like reading that, I was like, you're right. I really only know her from like one movie.
It is. Yeah. Perfect, Cailey. Thank you. All right. So my second little gift for you is one, how sometimes you give something to someone, but you'll get enjoyment out of it too. I
Oh,
think
sure.
this is one that I kind of got because I think I would like it as well as you. And it came out this past summer. And it's nonfiction. It's called Austen Years, a memoir in 5 novels by Rachel Cohen. And I gave it because we have this shared love. I know we love Pride and Prejudice, especially the 1995 version with Colin Firth.
Of
And
course.
we like classic literature in general. But this one has a unique premise. It's a true story about a writer who for 5 years read nothing but Jane Austen. Now can you imagine that?
Jane Austen doesn't have that many books.
That's what I mean. So it just caught my eye as like, wait, what? So it got me interested in the book. So it turns out during this kind of turbulent period in the writer's life, her father died, and then also she gave birth to her first child. So there was a lot of momentous things happening. And she kind of just decided to turn to Jane Austen as her only place. Like her mind was going in too many directions. So she stuck with Jane. And what she found was that Jane Austen has a wealth of things underneath the surface that you wouldn't, normally suspect. So I know sometimes Jane Austen, I know we wouldn't agree, but she can get this rep for having limited scope in her books. But she really shows, Rachel Cohen in this book, shows just how amazing her writing, Jane Austen's writing is, really going deep into the social expectations all of Austen's characters went through, and the family connections. So she actually looks at the father-daughter relationships in a lot of the novels like Emma and Pride and Prejudice, and kind of compares that to her own life. So I like how she compares like Austen's life to how it's relevant today, even hundreds of years later. Author Helen MacDonald actually wrote something nice about this book, and I agreed with it, that this book unearths hidden treasures from what we thought was familiar ground. I will never read Austen the same way again. And I think that's cool. And she also talks about the writer's relationship to other writers. So as librarians, I thought we could kind of relate to that,
Definitely. Yes, and I do enjoy Jane Austen, and I was just thinking I should reread Pride and Prejudice. It's been like a couple years for me. But that's true. That would be something interesting to read, especially after rereading one of Jane Austen's works.
Exactly.
That's a good one for me. So it's funny that you had an Austen type thing, because the next thing I have for you is a book that has often been compared to like Dickens and Austen.
Okay. All right.
So my next book is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke, which I don't think you've read, have you?
No, I've heard of it, but
Okay, so it's a little bit older. Came out maybe 15 years ago now, but I think it's a good fit for you. The book takes place in Regency, England.
Okay.
And it's been repeatedly described as a cross between Dickens and Austen, but with magic.
Ooh,
So do I have your attention?
Yes, go on.
So in England in the early 19th century, respectable people are offended by the idea of magic, and they scoff at the possibility of it being real. This is in part because the streets are filled with these faux magicians who are swindlers trying to do fake magic for a dime. But there are some who are actual students of magic, scholars, if you will, and not necessarily practitioners. And one man is the greatest magician and scholar, Mr. Norrell. And Norrell is a hoarder of books, our kind of people, And he has learned a lot over the years, and he's recently reluctantly taken on an apprentice in the form of Jonathan Strange.
Okay.
And Strange is much more of an impulsive magician, and it grates against Norrell's sort of studious nature. But the two sort of need each other to balance out. And together they are hoping to restore magic to England as it once was, much more accepted and admired and revered. But of course, it's not all that easy.
Yeah.
And the author takes the time to really write this story in a Regency style with the appropriate language and wording and very descriptive settings. And since I know you are a Dickens and Austen fan, felt like this was kind of up your alley here. I will warn you that this book is a big one, so maybe one to read when you have a few days off or a long weekend. But it's like a lot of those old, like, English authors that we admire. It's a sort of slow burn, detailed story with a lot of side characters and sort of like different journeys that they're on. Also, the author does that utterly Dickens thing that you love, where the characters have names that just sort of suit their personalities.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I love it. That's so cute, Cailey. Thank you.
I thought that would be a perfect one for you.
Yes. No, it is. I love those immersive worlds too. That's probably my favorite thing about Dickens and all that. So, man, that sounds great. And yeah, it's a big one I've never read, never had a chance to. So, awesome. Thank you, Cailey.
I think
Thank
we
you.
did a good job picking for each other.
We really did. It's tough. I'm like when you said it was going to be an Austen, like similar to Austen. I'm like, oh no, is this like Gift of the Magi where we got the same book or something? That was so funny, man. Thank you guys for watching us give gifts to each other, and maybe you'll want to read these yourself. So thank you guys. So next week we are not going to have a video. We're actually going to take a break until January 9th. And then next year, we're going to be moving to every other Saturday. So we're still going to have some great recommendations for you, but keep an eye out for that new schedule next year.
Yes, and this year we have done something like 28 of these videos. So thank you so much for coming along on this trip with us. And hopefully you'll join us next year on January 9th when we pick it back up again.
Yes. Happy holidays.
And happy reading.
Yes.